Hello, my most amazing artists. Now that we have our pumpkins complete, we're ready to make them look more like Kusama's pumpkins. And Kusama's pumpkins had little polka dots on them. So I'm going to give you a little tiny chunk of Model Magic. And with your Model Magic, you're going to rip off little tiny pieces. So I'm just going to pinch it and rip off a little tiny piece and roll it into a little tiny meatball. You're going to create a bunch of these little tiny meatballs before we begin adding them to our pumpkin. So let's create a bunch of these. So I'm going to roll them up. And I'm just pinching off a little tiny bit. Look how teeny tiny these are. I don't want to take large chunks of clay. So I don't want to create a big piece like this. That is way too big. I got to rip off little tiny pieces and roll them into little tiny dots. You're going to make a whole pile of your dots. Once you have a bunch of dots created, we're ready to add them to our pumpkin. So I'm going to grab this pumpkin and I'm going to place it on there and just gently tap it on. So I'm going to add a few dots to mine. Now I don't want to smoosh my pumpkin. I don't want to change the shape of my pumpkin, but I just want to add these dots carefully to it. So I'm gently placing them onto my pumpkin all the way around. So I'm putting some in each of these little sections of my pumpkin that I created. And I'm not leaving it poking out really bumpy like that. I am pressing it, but I don't want to press so hard that I change the shape of my pumpkin. Like that, just gently placing those on there. I'm going to take another one, gently placing it on there. So I'm just flattening out a little tiny bit. And once you use up all your polka dots, you might need to create a few more. But remember, these pumpkins really are pretty tiny, so we don't want to create dots that are too big. Each of these little tiny meatballs that we create is got to be kind of small, like that. This one looks pretty good. I think I'm done with this one. Let's move on to creating another pumpkin. So I think I'm going to even try to make these dots even smaller. I'm just pinching them and rolling them into teeny tiny dots that I can add to my pumpkin. Once you've transformed all your regular pumpkins into dotted kusama pumpkins, then we're going to be ready to add them to our own infinity room. An infinity room is made out of mirrors so that it reflects on all sides, and it looks like the pumpkins go on and on forever, just like the ones that we saw in the video. So you're going to get a little folded room like this. Your name is on the bottom, so make sure to look for your name. And we're going to figure out how we want to place our pumpkins inside. So you're just going to place your pumpkins where you would like them in your infinity room. And we'll see how they reflect on all of the walls. Can't wait to see your kusama rooms.